Okay, Bob.
Thank you. This is obviously being recorded. We will call the meeting to order at 7:04. And we will please rise for the pledge. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Okay. We're okay. Alrighty. First item is public comment. I know there were a few people, I believe, that had signed up on public comment. If you want to go in the order that people signed up. Is it supposed to be like that? She's got it on, I can do gallery, and it's just going to, hold on. It'll be like that. So.
Right, your own time.
Okay, Jamie, you have 3 minutes.
Thank you. My name is James Sterling. I live at 20 Miller Road. Thank you all for serving as our selectmen. Paula, I've known you since our days in Amity when I was on the Amity Finance Committee, and Don, you have more common sense than most two politicians combined. I am disappointed in you both for allowing our town attorney to keep changing the language for votes on the proposed burn building training facility. That's the correct name that the Bethany Volunteer Fire Department gave to this project on their grant application. Tonight's agenda includes the third time different language being used on this motion for this topic. In April, you sent a straightforward yes or no question to Planning and Zoning. In June, your attorney apologized for not getting it right the first time and added a lease question to the up or down vote. Now, tonight's agenda includes new lease language. All these versions confuse the simple question. Do the residents of Bethany want to build a burn building training facility adjacent to the airport property? Yes or no? We can work out the lease language details after we decide the main question. I have talked to dozens of people, Democrats, Republicans, and unaffiliated, who prefer a simple yes or no question on the November 7th ballot. You still have the opportunity to do that tonight. You could table agenda items 11 and 12 and vote tonight to put the language that Planning and Zoning sent back to you, language the town attorney wrote on the November 7th ballot. That language says, do the electors of the town of Bethany approve the proposal of the Bethany Volunteer Fire Department to construct a burn building training facility on the property in the immediate proximity of the existing firehouse? Yes or no? Please trust your neighbors instead of the attorney. Take his finger off the scale of public opinion. Motions 11 and 12 are out of character with your past honorable actions. I know you both love this town and trust the residents. I believe you know in your gut what's the right thing to do here. The voters of both parties will respect you for that. When citizens disagree on the vision for Bethany's future, please put it to a simple, unambiguous vote on the day with the largest voter attendance. Regardless of the outcome, that will be a good day for our democracy. Thank you.
Thank you. James, who's next on the Captain York? Okay.
Next on the list is Catherine.
I'm Catherine Sebastian, I work with my husband, English chickens and dogs. The reason I'm here for 2 reasons. I would like to really support what Jamie said. I don't think he could have said it any more succinctly. And I would also ask you to table items 11 and 12. I've served on a number of boards in my time. I've also served as counsel to a number of boards. And I'm always perplexed by the lack of transparency as to what goes on here. And, you know, this is central, this whole fire department burn building, it's not been clear, it's not been direct, it's been as if it's been set up to end up with a certain result. I'm also registered voters of the Democratic Party. I'd ask, and I've had this conversation with my Republican colleague, Jan Loomis. I've also had this conversation with our Deputy Republican, Amy Walensky, and Shannon Lane. And I'd ask that any time there's going to be a discussion about something coming up to a vote, that one of us be notified by email, preferably myself, because I'm the one who seems to handle the scheduling and the organization of the office. That way we can plan our calendar so that we're available for the town. So that if and has in this case, there's going to be lots of questions for the Secretary of State's office, we have an opportunity to have those conversations with the Secretary of State's office. This surprise, this random comment. I was informed that there was a discussion about the ROB office and the fact that we allegedly don't have enough volunteers, which is clearly not the case, because we don't have enough Republicans show up. We have Democrats and independents who step up and do the job that day. That really bothered me, that upset me, because we worked very hard to gather up our volunteers together. So I'd ask that whenever something's coming up for election, and yes, I know people don't like my politics, and I'm sorry, that's just who I am. That's just what I believe in, and I believe in love Bethany. Let me know, send me an email, and I'll make sure that myself, Jan, Amy, or Shannon are here so that we can answer any questions about the registering voters, how to run an election, having enough poll workers, anything like that. I feel like I'm finding out about things in the dark. I realize that I have a very busy professional life, but I do check my email at least twice a day. I have text message conversations with Jan, Shannon, and Amy every other day, sometimes Jan once a day. We're in constant contact with one another. We stay on top of the job, even though we only have 3 hours a week for office hours. We spend a lot more time at this job. So I don't think it's that much to ask for an email. And this is not the first time that I've made this request. Thank you.
Do you know who's next on the list? Is it Don's checking?
Well, Steve. Next and last on
I don't think it's broadcast.
I don't know.
It shouldn't, because it's telling me, it shouldn't, because it's telling me.
So first of all, my first question was on Exhibit A. On this, can someone please identify for me on the 2004 map, where, and I don't know if you can help me with this, where the training tower is, the training tower that was on the 2004 map, where is that located? I can see where the
Right there,
that's it?
that's it.
Does anyone have any information about the discussion that happened in 2004 about what that training tower was going to be in scope and design? I don't know, defer back on that too. I don't know who's on the building. Because I brought this up at another meeting, that a training tower and a burn building are not inherently the same animal. All burn buildings are training facilities, not all training facilities are burn buildings. As I read it in your item 11 proposal, and we'll go down to part C, BVFA proposed to change the construction of its proposed training facility from a proposed training tower to a proposed 2.5-story emergency services training facility. The specific language that was on the grant application says burn building / training facility. This language here is completely diluting that. I have no problem with the training facility. My problem stems from the fact that there is going to be burning and live fire training happening in close proximity to a good portion of our town's business district. And we haven't gotten any clear information about the impact that's going to have. We still haven't gotten good information from the manufacturer of this building. We haven't seen any of these buildings in service. We haven't seen any video. The fire department hasn't provided any from any facilities that you guys visited. No one's really looked into what the downstream effects of this are. And when you dilute the language, you take it down to, soften it to say emergency services training facility rather than burn building. Most people probably would just gloss right over this. You're not being fair to what is really at issue here. What's at issue here is whether or not we want to have a burn building, a Class A facility in our town. When the state, the regional school systems, the CFA, the CFPC, these are all, the trade industry folks at the state level that manage these things. They have these facilities available to us to use, and they've already sort of designated where the best locations for them would be. There is a feasibility study that just got approved at the state level for $250,000 to rework the entire state fire emergency plan. That's done by the Joint Council, which is 7, 8, or 9 of the fire service related groups, UPFFA, CFFA, CFDIA, and these are all acronyms soup for all you people. But these are all the people that are the movers and shakers in the fire service at the state level.
Please come to a closure because you hit the 3-minute mark.
Oh, you know that? I didn't realize, I'm doing a follow-up call, I didn't realize there was a
Yeah,
time.
well, I mean, in fairness to the other people that spoke, they just came in just shy of the 3 minutes.
So,
in fairness,
to
please.
tackle their points, you know, even Ben's original language was, should the BVFA be allowed to build a burn building? That was in the original language, and it seems to have changed and watered down. Don't do that. Put it back to where it belongs, because the people need to vote on a burn building, not a training facility. And no one is gonna say no to a training facility, but a burn building changes the needle. It really does. So we need to be more fair to our constituents. Thank you.
Okay, and is there anyone else who wishes to sign up and speak? No. Okay, we're gonna move on to item number 2, approval of the August 15, 2023 regular meeting minutes. May I have a motion to approve, please?
So moved.
Second,
Second.
okay. It was lengthy, it was a short version of, but, sure. So any questions, comments, corrections?
Yeah, just again,
Which page?
oh, no, just
I,
the,
and as light as I make it, when it copies, it comes out darker. As light as we make it, it still comes out darker.
yeah, if there's a different way you could do it, because it obscures a lot of the language, so be helpful.
Yeah, I lightened it up, but once it hits the copy machine, for some reason, it makes it darker.
But I didn't see any big.
Nothing?
No, everything looked good.
Okay, seeing no comments or corrections, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, okay, that's unanimous. Tax refunds, we have a couple of things. We have a correction to one of the items that was on last month's list. The original amount was $27.73, I believe it was, yes. But the correct amount should be $32.85. So can I have a motion to make that correction so it can be issued?
I make a motion.
Okay, this is, okay. Any other comments or questions?
There's more tax refunds?
Well, I'm passing out that's the new list that you have.
Okay.
Okay, but can we vote on this correction? All in
Yes.
favor of this correction?
Aye.
Aye, okay. Now you have been handed the new list of refunds for this month totaling $2,414.91. Can I have a motion to approve these refunds?
So moved as written.
Second.
Okay, any questions or comments? Here, oh,
No,
okay,
yeah,
I thought you
no,
were
it's just a question, did we lose somebody in the tax office?
Not yet, not yet. So it's,
I saw a posting, so.
right, it's, that's a personnel issue, so we'll.
Okay,
don't get
that
in
That
a
was
minute.
something completely different, Liz, that we can let you. we'll
Oh,
inform
right,
you of
okay,
yeah,
that's
later.
fine, that's
Yeah.
fine, yeah.
Okay, so all in favor of these, this month's tax refunds?
Aye.
Aye,
Aye.
okay, that's unanimous. Next item up are the cemetery deeds. I, instead of bringing in the massive deeds, I summarized because there were 8 of them, so that's item number 4. Can I get a motion to approve as noted in the attachment?
Make a motion to approve.
I'll second that.
Okay, any comments or questions on approving these deeds?
Nope.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Russell Road update. They are having a title issue, which they need to resolve before we can close on it. So we are just waiting for that, and then we should be able to close.
Well, don't say so.
Oh,
Yeah.
So what happened was when the property owner divided off this parcel from the larger parcel, he didn't realize that the lease that attached to the larger parcel carried onto the now newer, smaller parcel. He thought, oh, I'm gonna carve this area off and the liens will stay on the old piece, not attached to the new piece. And so there are things ranging from old mortgages that need to be released to existing mortgages to some other things that I won't get into because they're
Okay,
personal.
that's fine, that's fine.
So
So-
once that's resolved,
Yeah.
then we can close and we'll be good on that piece of property.
But Attorney Ippolito did say they're working on it.
Okay, solar farm update.
Can I
Oh, I'm
just ask,
sorry.
how many liens are there on it?
Well, I can tell you, there's about a dozen.
For
A
that-
lot of
for-
games played.
Well, there's some DRS liens,
Some federal, some
from
state.
IRS liens. There are, there's liens that the town can address itself, because they're tax liens from the town. And then there's, a mortgage that dates back to 2004 and a mortgage that dates back to, I think, 2003. So, they have some work to do, but they're working on it. But the town is ready to close whenever we get.
And we're
clear
gonna
time.
extend the time, there's no time frame, so we're gonna,
Time, we did not set the contract as time is of the
Right.
essence, so at this point, we're in a waiting for
just
that.
when it's done, it's done.
Right, so.
Okay.
Solar farm project, obviously, I did put a little blurb in the September bulletin with regard to the fact that we have been approved for being a party to the project intervener, and also the residents who formed their own sort of group and have their own attorney. He has also been approved to be a party to this as well.
Oh, good. Okay.
So today we received some questions, interrogatories that we have to prepare and get ready to submit by the end of the month, I
The
believe.
19th that they're
Oh,
due,
19th,
so
okay.
I did a rough draft of the responses, and I'm sharing those with the appropriate staff person or official to review the draft responses. And hopefully we'll have a final rough draft by the end of next week, but the actual filing is not due until the 19th of September.
Is your hearing scheduled already?
There's a
preliminary hearing,
pre-hearing conference set for tomorrow, where the parties and the intervener will meet with Attorney Bachman, who's the executive director of the siting council, to address kind of the hearing itself and who's going to be filing what, who the list of exhibits and witnesses.
There's an evidentiary hearing on October 5th at 2 o'clock, I believe it is. And then the public hearing will actually be that evening at 6:30.
Yes.
So they do the
October 5th.
There's no public
So a
comment
month
during
from
the evidentiary period, meeting at 2 o'clock, but then at 6:30 is the public hearing for comment.
Is that Zoom or is
It,
that physical?
it will be Zoom, I
Zoom.
believe. I believe it will be Zoom.
It's not like
And
a-
just so you know, if you happen to be traveling on Bethmore Road, the applicant or the petitioner is required to, I believe, 10 days, I think 10 days before the hearing, has to put up a sign that notices the public hearing with all of the information for the siting
like a
council.
like a
And
liquor license.
so if you know, if you think the petitioner's doing something for the project, they're just actually noting or noticing the public hearing. They're required to do that.
Will you put like a Zoom link on the town website?
We
or
can
something?
put, no, well, you know what it is too. We also will be putting out the October bulletin prior
Okay,
to
so we'll be in the. in
that,
the
so
building.
we will have that information in the bulletin, so.
Now, is it can we participate or just is it watch only Zoom meeting?
No, the public hearing is for the public.
Right. The
To
town, the
comment.
town is a party.
We
So
are
we,
a
so we
party,
can,
but-
we as a town people, we can
Well,
talk or
Well, not,
participate.
no, well, let's not overstate we as a town. The town is designated as a party,
Yes,
and the town will be presenting a case as to why this site is not the right site for this proposed facility.
okay,
That will be prepared in advance and submitted by pre-filed testimony. And then during the hearing, we'll have the right to cross-examine and to argue. But just any member of the public does not have a right to participate
Okay,
at the
so-
evidentiary hearing.
Okay.
They can participate at the evening session for
at the,
public
no, the
comment.
evening
Yeah,
session.
there's no
Yeah.
public comment.
No, no,
at
not
the
during the day,
evidentiary.
obviously,
Yeah,
no, but-
no,
Right.
no.
At night, okay.
Right, but, and we are working on our presentation of our case in coordination with the intervener.
Good.
So we are, you know, basically just prepping all the documentation that needs to be submitted for our case. So, okay. Item 7, appointments of Bethany Economic Development Commission. Rich Kogel and Brent Chiccarelli had reached out to me last week indicating their interest to join the commission. And interestingly enough, later that morning, I happened to be talking to Tommy Cavalier, the chair, on Russell Road, and a couple of other items we've got going on with him. And I noted to him that I had these two people interested in joining, and I asked him if he had any reservations or concerns or whatever. And he said, absolutely not. He'd be happy to have them join the commission. So I said, okay, we have our meeting next week and I will bring them forward for approval.
Okay, so I will move to add Rich Kogel and Brent Chickarelli as members of the Economic Development Commission. Full members, correct?
I'd just like to ask a couple questions. Why now? Why of interest? I know there are vacancies on the commission,
Right.
but just curious why you want to be on it.
Well, because there's vacancies on the board that's important and they definitely need the help. I actually have been here my entire life and have been very comfortable with many of the businesses in town and have plenty to add. Quite frankly, with 30 years on the fire department, I've worked with the majority of them over here. I have an excellent reputation with most of them and have a good idea of where the town's going. The committee was on a good path. They need to stay on it. And there's no reason for it to fold for lack of membership.
Okay. People understand what economic development is though, right? So,
I would think so.
right? Economic development, right?
We want to build a reasonable tax base with things that are appropriate for our town to use for our residents.
Yeah, it's creation of taxes and jobs in a nutshell. That's what economic development is.
And Tommy did mention that Orange recently switched over to do quarterly meetings unless something is needed, and then they would call a meeting, but he's thinking that maybe now that we'll have quorum group on the committee, if, when you're approved, that they would move to quarterly meetings as well.
Orange, yeah.
Yeah, he said
The Orange
Orange,
Economic Development,
has
because they're
switched to-
funded, they're jointly with the chamber there.
but he said they had switched to quarterly meetings, and he was thinking of potentially looking to do the same thing.
Tom
here.
Cavalier.
Tom Keller, because right now he's the chair.
So-
So, can I, you made the
I made the
motion,
motion, yes.
can I,
Um,
no, go ahead.
No, I don't have a
Oh.
question. I'm just looking, it looks like Steve was,
Are you gonna second it?
I will second if someone wants to volunteer to be on a commission, I can stand in their way.
God bless
Any
them.
volunteers?
Okay, any other comments or questions? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Best of luck. You know what, they're business owners too, so they understand the
Well,
economics of
that's a good
business
thing.
too.
That's a good thing.
So, that's great.
Well, for the record, that's gonna be printed on the website, you just have the titles added to the names.
Absolutely not, has nothing to do with.
But yeah, their
committee.
titles don't need to be on there.
Nor should the email for fire, I don't use my professional email for town business.
Yeah,
That was
we will-
totally uncalled for.
We will put your
Yeah.
personal
Proper email
information,
and phone
that's
number.
fine. Update on grants, wasn't any,
I have small updates. I do not have an update. There is no update on ARPA. Everything is status quo because all the approvals were done
Mhm.
last month. Steep, the work is complete.
100%.
We have received the last invoice for payment on that. So we will be able to submit our quarterly report at the end of September for our final reimbursement from the state on that.
This is the
That's
old one. I'm
The old
seeing,
one.
yeah.
Last, yeah, last year.
Last year.
What year is that?
That was the,
23, fiscal 23.
That was 23?
Or do we
No.
apply in
Or was it
22?
22?
we applied in the fall of 22.
What's the name of the grant?
That was the,
fiscal 23.
Just,
Yeah, it's just good to identify what the
I honestly.
project name is and. the
oh, that
year.
was, oh, okay, so,
That was-
project name, that was the Firehouse Access Road and.
That was,
There were
yeah,
multiple things going on for that
Yeah,
one.
It
and,
was the-
and guide rail project.
Yeah,
Okay, yeah, well,
Yeah,
that,
yeah,
so
so
that one-
we had multiple things
so,
encompassed in
so
that
the
one.
work is complete on that. Cabrera, the project has started on the annex. They have started to take out the windows. So that is underway and since we have the money in hand, it will go smoothly. We don't have to worry on that from a standpoint of funding, that we don't have to wait for reimbursement. We have the money up front on that. And we're anticipating 6 to 8 weeks.
For the project?
Yeah.
Yes, it might not be, the annex will be done. These windows may or may not. We were told 4 to 5 week delivery time. If we get it in 4 to 5 weeks, then yes, it'll be done. if the windows are held up, these 11 big windows here.
It'll be later.
when
But
they
the
come in, they
annex
come in. The annex
itself
will be done.
will be done within within that 6 to 8 week time frame.
Is this Tallow who had the contract?
Taylor's doing the construction, yes,
How come they got an advance? What was that about?
in advance,
Yeah.
because they delivered probably $20,000 worth of material today.
Okay.
So we didn't give, it wasn't a third, I think we gave them about a sixth of the money up front to buy material, so that's pretty standard. Usually a third is pretty standard, but.
And we do
They
have
were good with a
we do
six.
have a performance bond. We are
Oh,
holding a
yes.
performance
Okay,
bond.
okay, okay.
And they've done multiple jobs in town, and they're so far so good.
The Deloro, we're waiting to find out if we're actually, they told us September, we would know if we are going to, but when we would receive the money. Trip, we're still waiting. We have not heard. We were supposed to in August, and I guess that's been pushed to September
They
or
are double
October or
checking
whatever.
again. I saw the gentleman over at Scrog last week and I asked him to please follow up again because,
Yeah. So as soon as we know, that information will be passed on to
Okay.
you guys.
Okay, number 9, Simpson property. Okay, John Paul sent us the final survey. Survey says, unfortunately, Mr. Simpson passed away last week, so we don't know if we have to go through probate again to finish any final closing on the property. So,
I did share John Paul's work with Deep, with Allison Clark, so they'll, notwithstanding Mr. Simpson's death, the state will hopefully get us out of the review process, and we'll get the final clear to close from Deep. That will then allow me to finalize the work with the Audubon Society, because we have to make sure that the restrictions that each organization wants to put on the conservation easements on the land are not in conflict, and Deep trumps at the end of the day. But I've had preliminary conversations with both Deep and with Audubon, and I don't think we're gonna have an issue there. But so once I get the clear close from Deep, I'll then finalize with Audubon. And then hopefully Attorney Nichols, who was representing the seller, will begin immediately getting any approvals that he needs from the estate of Simpson.
So the 5-year, 6-year almost is nearing an end.
Don't jinx me.
I'm not jinxing
I
it.
know.
Yes, don't jinx me.
I'm saying-
We're working as hard as we can, but that's where it stands. We want to try to get this thing closed yesterday before anything else changes.
May I ask what that is, the Simpson property? What is that?
it's 50.88 acres up on Beacon Road,
42.
on
Route
42
42.
going toward.
That listing that was on the 273 that's on for that?
That he had to take down because he didn't realize we already had an agreement with the family.
Who passed,
Right.
Now it's in probate.
Right,
Yeah, we've had a signed contract now for,
since October of 21, I want to
Yeah.
say.
With the deceased party,
Well, it had to go through a couple of different probates
and now it's gonna.
and then, so it might have to do it again.
so,
So-
right.
Yeah,
We're Browning, I'm Browning at 253 Beacon Road,
okay,
and I'm interested in what you guys are.
yeah,
Goals to keep his open space.
yeah.
Hopefully.
That was applied for before I even took office in 2019. That was
Yes, it
started.
17, 18, we started the project. So,
It's very fast.
Yes, unfortunately, yes. So, but that's where we are with that at the moment.
I need to say, thank the person who just spoke for identifying himself. But the only view that those of us online have is of you. And
I know,
so
I'm trying to figure out why the owl is not picking everyone up, Connie. I saw your message. I'm trying to work on that.
we don't
Okay?
have participation in this meeting because we don't know who's speaking. We only see you. And if people can identify themselves, I mean, we know who
Okay,
they
that's
are.
fair enough.
Identify yourself for time.
Well,
I think he did.
okay,
I
all
said
right.
he did. He's the only one who
He
did, but
the only
others.
one.
Okay,
So,
sorry, I
okay,
misunderstood.
I'm sorry, I didn't. get
thank you.
Matt.
Matt.
The only person we see is Paula.
That you can see, yes, I know, and I've been trying to figure out how we can switch that over.
We
And
haven't been able to see the room or who
You
else.
touch it, it's gonna.
Yeah, I don't want to tell you. Go ahead, you touch it.
yeah, we had a problem getting it actually booted up tonight, so I'm trying not to touch too many things right now,
All right,
so.
going to participate and have full participation, but this is not it. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Con. All right, discussion number 10, discussion of possible action to consider and act on recommending amendment number 1 to the fireman's lease to a special meeting. It's basically just moving the amendment forward to the town meeting.
Well, I have to say, disappointed, I did send you an email and I copied you, Don, asking that, when we had the last meeting, Chief Coach said that, let the voters decide, put it on the November 7th ballot. And I thought that was a good idea, and I sent you an email asking that we do that. And either having an item today or a special meeting, whatever we needed to do, just to make it happen, to be specific about what we're doing, and to use the grant name that was used.
The official name that was given to this project on Rosa DeLauro's
That's
website
what we did.
is the Bethany Emergency Services Training Facility. That's the official, it says it right on her website. The official name of this project is the Bethany Emergency
That's what we
Services Training Facility.
That's not what's on the grant.
That, well, you know what, the grant went through her office. It was her office that gave it the official name. So if you got an issue with that, then you need to talk to her office. I'm just saying what is on her website and
That
what
name
it
is on
says.
the grant.
It's on the grant, it's not the title, it's on the-
Well, I'm just saying what is on her website is what it's.
Well, and that's another point of confusion, is that I went through the amendments in the lease. And I looked at all the different names. You have what I thought was the grant name, which was the Burn Building Training Facility. Then proposed future training tower from the map, and then proposed training tower, and then proposed training facility, proposed 2.5-story emergency services training facility, fire training facility, proposed fire training facility. So.
Well, they are proposed.
I understand that, but the consistency in the wording is very important to many of us just trying to follow the project and what it means. And I just think it would be much more straightforward if we just, and save the taxpayer money, like the chief had
Well,
said, to put it on
The
November
map that
7th.
the map that was provided with item number
But
10,
why not put it on the November 7th ballot? Why not?
because it would need a separate room with a
So?
separate,
We do with EDR, we do it with, every time there's a federal election, we have a separate room for same day voter registration. We use the commission room right next door to my office. It's no skin off our teeth. We have the staff, we have the people. that
we
do
need
it.
to bring resolution and closure to this. To have it linger for another 2+ months, it's just gonna bring more divisiveness between people, and we need to just bring closure to it. People have been talking about this for months, and people have been nasty to their neighbors and nasty to other residents, and it needs to stop. And the only way we're gonna get it to stop is to let the people vote on it in October, in 5 weeks, or however many weeks it is from this point on.
Please,
The way people have behaved over this, it's so disheartening. This is not what Bethany is about. People have a right to their opinion, yes, but not the nastiness that has happened. I'm so disheartened to hear people about this, and I want it to stop, and I'm trying to get it to move forward as quickly as possible. The people can speak at a referendum, and I'm recommending the referendum happen 7 to 14 days after the town meeting, which the 7th day would be October 4th. I'm trying to simplify it, I'm trying to get it done, and I'm trying to bring closure to it. I want to bring some peace back to this community because it's awful what has happened.
I guess I don't see it that way, that November 7th seems like why not? We know we're gonna get a lot of people there to.
If it's important enough to
To come
people, they will
out.
have
Did you set the town
14
meeting
hours
date already?
to come and vote.
Okay, so there was it seems just overly complicated to do it this
Just
way.
board already set a town meeting date?
Oh,
Yes,
yeah, that
this
was
town meeting
last
was
meeting,
set
yes.
at August
Then by
15th.
statute, the referendum has to be within a 7 to
14
14
days
days from
after
that
that.
meeting.
Right.
Otherwise, so
if-
you
if-
have to, you have to change the date of the town meeting if you're going to, if you want to push it out, then your town meeting cannot be held on the scheduled date. So that's,
Or you don't put it on the call.
so,
That's an option.
so, then the town meeting doesn't have an opportunity to discuss it.
It's just
so-
very complicated, and then we're on 11, I understand, but.
No, we're on 10.
But that's why it's
Okay.
scheduled for
But-
this, because it has to be within a
has
window
to be
from the
right.
town meeting.
Right.
schedule.
Okay, so I will make a motion to adopt number 10,
To bring it
to bring it to the town
town
meeting to
meeting.
change the lease.
I would like
That's
to make,
amendment number one.
actually, I was going to make a motion that we bring it to the ballot on November 7th. You know, to a
I'm
ballot
not gonna
vote.
second that. I want this done and
You're not gonna
resolved.
second
So
that.
I am
there's,
not
well,
gonna
there's a
second.
there's a
Right.
motion, is there a
Well,
second?
he already made the motion
That's true,
to.
that's true.
Okay, so what is your motion, Don?
My
to
motion
approve-
was to consider an act on recommending amendment to number 1 at a special town meeting to be held on September 27th.
What is
Yes.
number 1 exactly? I
That's,
went
that's
through
the
it.
attachment that's in
I
there.
got it. I went
Okay.
through it. I'd like to hear.
I can read it if you
also
like.
couldn't read the little maps. So I blew them up as best I could with PDF. I was hoping at the very least we'd have it here so I could see what was what, and then further with dotted lines, the whole thing is dotted lines, so. I get that, okay, you're trying to remove the fire department in the facility and say it's only this, it's not the whole airport property and the other.
That's number 10, yes.
Okay. Does that need a,
That doesn't go to referendum.
Okay,
That
that
could just
does
be
not-
voted on.
that
by
can be
town
voted
meeting.
on tonight?
No, no, no.
Or, I mean, I'm
Town
sorry.
meeting,
We are
voted on.
At the town meeting.
Discuss it at the
Meeting.
town meeting.
Okay.
whether we
Yeah.
vote They'll on it. discuss and voted on that.
Right, discuss and vote at the town
And then
meeting.
the 11 and we're talking about those separately.
Yes.
correct?
Yes, we're doing, that's why we're doing them
So
all
the
separately.
the first one is to send to the town meeting the amendment of the lease to better describe the originally leased premises
Right,
so that it conforms to the original map. That was, so basically, we're gonna get rid of the description that basically gives the fire department unfettered access to the entire parcel. And we're gonna limit the leased premises to that map.
Mhm.
Okay, that's action number 10.
Yes.
And so that would go to the town meeting could discuss it and take action at the town meeting. That doesn't have to go to referendum unless they want to adjourn it to referendum. It's the second action, which is the present discussion or the primary discussion, which is the training facility with a burn room that has morphed in definition or name because we thought best to conform to the grant language provided by Congresswoman Delors' name based upon your recommendation.
So we're still on number 10, just so we all know.
Yes.
So we're still on number 10. I will second that, so. Just to move things along.
it would have helped perhaps to have the lease itself, to know, generally when I look at things, I like to see what is and
I
what is
thought we had
proposed,
provided
so I
that
can see
another
this,
time.
We
see
did.
Thought we
that.
had
see
provided
this.
that
previously-
another
Or you
time.
can just, rather than,
We
Reciting
gave
language
copies of the
as
lease to
revised.
the selectmen at a prior meeting. I know we did. So if you wanted a new, I can email it to you anew, but I know that I previously provided to the selectmen. I believe there are hard copies at 2 meetings, it was 2 meetings ago,
Somewhat, yeah.
because I wasn't here at the last meeting.
where the
So-
lease was provided,
Not, 2 meetings ago.
or was that P and Z or was that?
I think I
Thank
got a
you.
copy
Oh,
of it
Catherine
today.
has.
Yeah.
Oh, good for you, thank you. I'm pretty sure I have not seen this before.
Mm.
We've had copies out there, so I.
But basically, just to show you, if you go down here,
Mhm.
what we're proposing is that we
We changed the lease title.
delete that Schedule A.
Mhm.
So we omit that and we amend paragraph 1, which is this paragraph right here.
Okay,
That's the first action item.
so before, it was just too vague.
Right,
Right?
Very
that's all?
vague,
Okay. I
very
get that.
vague.
All right.
Now it's going by the map provided.
right. So the first one hopefully is not controversial.
Shouldn't be. It's
That's
just
fine.
clarifying the
It has
area.
nothing to do with the granting of an interest in real estate for purposes of construction or anything. It's just defining the lease premises.
Okay,
Okay.
Okay,
yeah, I'm good with that.
you good with that? Okay, all in favor of that? motion? Aye. No? Oops.
I thought I turned this off. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Clearly not.
No, I
Okay.
did.
Okay, item number 11 is discussion and possible action to consider an act on recommending amendment number 2 of the lease to a special town meeting. And that is,
Well, then I will make a motion.
I'll second.
We'll let her make our motion first.
Oh, I'm sorry.
a
A motion for
Thank you,
discussion.
Don. You have no idea what I'm doing.
You don't know what she's motioning.
No. To make a motion, to put on the November 7th ballot.
Yeah.
And let the people decide.
Yeah, 30 seconds.
That
I would
is-
like it to make a motion.
Nice try.
To set up.
Wait a second. Wait, there's been a motion.
Okay,
Is there a second to that motion? Let's at least follow parliamentary process.
I want it on the record
Right.
that officially, because I had
Yeah.
submitted a request for
And-
that.
But when you just
Okay.
remember,
Reply.
when you email all of us, as I had to explain to Jamie one day, is that's illegal communication. We cannot respond.
No, I
because
asked to
it's-
be, for it to be on the agenda.
I know, but once you put it out to all of us, that's like
Just send it to
illegal
Paul.
communication,
I-
just
It
to
violates
me
that-
by
it
itself.
violates
send it to
what-
me, in other words.
Yeah,
Don't send it
those
to
are the
me.
rules. I didn't make them
Well,
up.
it would have been nice if you replied, oh, just
Okay.
whatever.
So,
So,
But,
so, well, let's finish there's
For the
a
record.
motion
Yes.
which was
that
not
has not been seconded, so it fails for lack of a second.
Okay, so I would like to
Okay.
make a motion to consider number 11, to consider an act recommending amendment number 2 to BFD lease to a special town meeting.
I'll second.
what was your, motion?
I made a motion as written
As written on the.
to
as written on the
consider
agenda.
acting on it.
To consider action
Yes.
and put a special.
For
town
discussion.
meeting, For discussion, okay.
Yes.
Well, your motion is to recommend to the town meeting the resolution as presented.
That's number 12.
Yes, well, right now, yes,
Right
right
now, we're on
now,
number 11.
right now, I just acted, I made a motion to
discussion.
consider and act upon recommending
Okay.
an amendment of number 2 to the
Okay,
the
good.
lease to special town meeting.
All right,
Which is the clarification with the new map.
with the new,
With
that's
the new map.
the new one.
So just open the discussion.
Okay. democracy.
Any other
So in
discussion?
this, so we're looking at item 11 here as proposed, and I just rephrased some of it here, 'cause so the top there, then where you are. So the second amendment to the February 2013 lease, okay, that's
Right.
what you're doing,
Yeah.
just amending the lease,
All right.
which is what,
Hold on one second, let me pull it up here, so we go.
and this here. Which is what Catherine provided to me.
And as you can see, there was no specific date put on that lease. It just said February 2013.
Right, no
There's
date,
no specific date on that.
which is unusual.
Well, actually, it's less unusual than you think. It's just people just don't fill in the blanks sometimes. But
So I went through the recitals and I was trying to figure out, like B. So it says permitted to construct, operate, maintain a proposed future training site is what it says on that map on 2004, right? It says it has the future in there.
Tower, it refers to a tower on the first map.
Right, future training tower, sorry.
Right.
So that's where I started collecting the different vocabulary, trying to follow it through.
I just want to follow along with you as so your first comment relates to the title, to say First Amendment to the February 2013 lease.
So I'm just looking at what we have.
I just want,
here.
I want to follow your comments so that if they're accepted, if anything's accepted, I already had it. So February.
Who's speaking?
It's
was-
Liz and Ben.
Thank
Yes,
you.
so-
This is just asking a couple
Yes,
of questions and he's clarifying.
I
Got
turned it, nothing happens. I tried to turn the camera by hand,
I don't know why.
nothing happens.
Because it's picking up me, so I don't know why it's not picking up the rest of
And,
it.
and again, for the audience at home, this is the town attorney, just to question the selectman, the select person. What, you had a comment about the recitals?
Yeah, I was just going through them and I was identifying
I was gonna say it's time to Bethany.
what they're called in the map and then what they're called in the recitals.
So, that's a certain lease for real property, all right, so it's A, B. Might actually. Okay. I think, I tried to mirror them exactly as they're stated on the map.
Which is impossible to read.
Well, I had them digitally, so I blew them up to,
Too bad we can't show them.
Unfortunately, I don't have them on the computer. We had to switch laptops too, so.
so I was able to enhance it, so I'm confident that they're correct.
But this is to relocate the proposed development from the approved location to the area proposed as, so it's to change where it was on the original map?
Right, so again, this is the town attorney speaking. So if you look at the 2004 map, that 2004 map has a area on it that's marked for the proposed tower facility. And if you look at your packet, exhibit A,
There's the tower right there. That little
That's what
square,
X?
that little square with the X in it is the tower.
right,
Very
so.
close to the tree line.
Right.
Yeah.
One of the things that we, and again, I'm getting information that I had requested a while back, and I get information when I get information. And what I discovered was on the original map, from a leasehold perspective, again, because what is the town meeting being asked to do? The town meeting can't approve this facility. Right, only the zoning and wetlands commission can approve the facility. What the town meeting does is grant an interest in real estate for purposes of constructing a facility. It might be semantical, but it's legally significant. It's because the town meeting is the owner of the real estate. So the reason why the question is presented as it is shall the lease be amended to allow for the relocation of what was once designated on a map in 2004 to what is now designated on a map from 2023. Okay, so, the town meeting could say a lot of different things. Well, we'll grant that, but we want it to be in the spot that it was in 2004, right? They could say, we don't want to grant it at all. They could say, we'll grant it, but we don't like either of these spots. We want it over here. So we don't know what the town meeting is going to do. They're the owner of the real estate. That's why we're bringing it to the town meeting, so we're going to have that dialogue. But all they can do is grant an interest in real estate, and you do that by virtue of the lease. Once, and assuming arguendo that they voted to authorize the amendment of the lease, that doesn't mean this facility ever gets constructed, right? Because it still then has to go back to zoning. And zoning could say, we don't approve your site plan. So just because you are authorizing the amendment to a lease doesn't mean you're authorizing the construction. As the owner, you're saying, I will allow this to be constructed on my land, but you don't have the right to authorize them to put sticks in the ground. Only the zoning and wetlands commission have that right.
I thought that it was clearly just the conformity to the comp plan that the PNC was ruling on.
That was a different question. There was an 820, again, it was an 8-24 referral. right? So
Right.
at that time,
Right,
it was whether or not it conformed to the P O C D. When it goes back to zoning, it's gonna be a site plan approval.
I didn't think I thought it was gonna skirt.
No,
It's gotta go back to zoning.
Right.
It will go back.
Just because, and again, I want, if the town meeting votes it down, then that's the end of the conversation. If the town meeting votes in favor of the lease amendment, they still have to go to zoning to get site plan approval.
Mhm.
So all you're doing is saying, and the reason why this has matured over time in changing of kind of wording is because I want it to be as legally correct as possible to avoid the criticism that I'm making of things that happened 20 years ago. I want it to be, what we're really doing is saying there was a designated spot on a map that was approved back in 2004. They don't want to construct it at that location. They want to construct it at a new location. And there's a new map that shows where they want. So what we're doing, because theoretically, you entered into a lease, right, that has allowed them to do certain things, including constructing a training tower. Your existing lease, which it went through the site plan approval, and it's shown on the map. So, arguably, the department could take the position, we don't need to go through this 824 and the town meeting. We can construct the tower as presented in 2004 and just go back to zoning it on a site plan. What they're saying though is we no longer want to build a tower. We want to build a 2.5-story training facility with a burn room. All right. And again, trying to remain as true to the process as we can. This portion of the process is for the town meeting to decide whether or not it wants a training facility with a burn room constructed on the site, 765 Amity Road, which is the address designated for the fire department headquarters, in a shifted location. That's the ultimate question for the town meeting. And again, if they vote yes, they still have to go back to zoning for site plan approval.
Ben, excuse me. Connie put up a comment up there. Can you see the
But
comment?
the town must understand.
You just.
It was there for a second.
This is why we need more time and not rush a referendum to have more, okay, understand.
I'm trying to go back to her original question. Hold on. There you go.
Right. Again, I'm not trying to confuse, try to keep, mind my words. I'm trying not to confuse. I'm trying to actually make clear. All right, that there's process, and the process here is a grant of interest in real estate. The lease has already been granted. All right, what we're doing in the first instance is redefining the description of what that original lease does. If you read the lease, the training tower is already something that they kind of have the leasehold right to do at the location, which was on the site plan that was approved back in 2004. And if you look at the 8-24 referral, if you actually go to the minutes, I believe it's actually discussed.
And it says something about additional buildings or additional
Right.
something.
So,
And you referred to it as approved location.
right. So what I'm trying to say is, look, there are two maps that you should be focused on. The 2004 map, and yes, we can put this maybe up on the website so people can take the PDF and explode it up to 200%, 250%, so you can actually read the words. But there's an area on that 2004 map that has the proposed tower. What we want to do is, we want the town meeting to decide whether or not that area should be shifted to the new area designated on the 2023 map.
Well, simply, there's a new map and a new location for the
And-
facility. And you're calling it instead as a tower, it's 2.5 stories.
Well, because,
And,
right,
but what you're missing is not putting the word burn in there and,
Well,
and the
because of your
inconsistency in
recommendation,
the
okay.
vocabulary. is
I try to listen to everyone. And you were pretty vehement about sticking to the grant language, and that's why I went to Rose's, Congresswoman Delores' website. And this, I just took it off of her, what they designated, and that was based on your recommendation.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to capture everyone's input, including, majority and minority, on this. My job is to try to listen to what you're all saying and try to include as best I can.
My
And so,
understanding is that this was the name of the grant that was submitted. Was that the name of the
The
grant?
grant's right here, Liz, if you'd like to read it.
Yeah, I've never seen it. What's the title of the?
The first three lines, which I wrote this, Brent Chicarelli, 1077 Amity Road, Nottingham. The Bethany Volunteer Firemen's Association is seeking funding to construct a burn building training facility. The project will officially be named, in quotes, and this is not new, Mr. Sterling has seen this since day one, Bethany Emergency Services Training Facility. That is the official name of the project on Rosa Dolores grant.
There you go.
Okay.
and that's,
I didn't know that. I thought it was the first part of it.
no, and that's why I went with what was in quotes.
Look at it.
All right, and if I'm subject to criticism for it, so be it, but I can only do what I find out.
This
I think it's
information
important
was
to
known.
note that I stand corrected. In all of my statements to Grant and the chief, I picked up on the name, not the corrected name, and I stand corrected for that, and I apologize for my
Okay.
push.
But-
Okay.
And I appreciate that, but I also
Go
want,
on your website. fix
let there should be no confusion. No one has hidden what this is
Right.
and what is
Yes.
proposed to include. Right? It's a training facility with a burn room. That's what, that's
There's no
ultimate.
disputing that.
So,
Never happened.
and that's been clear from day one.
That's what should be on both.
But
But we're not, they have to bring that to planning and zoning. Like he said, on item 12 of our packet here is the question that will go forward, which will be the amendment approving this new structure with, on the proposed new.
Right. And
Map.
the problem is if I said that, then I'd be criticized for not using the official name of the grant. Right? So,
You have to use the official name. I mean, it is what it is.
Her point was really valid. It sounds like it's a new address. It sounds like it's a new proposal. It sounds like it's a different property.
no, it's
No,
no.
no.
It's always been
Yeah.
765
Oh,
Amity Road
Same thing,
from,
you're just
Cleaning up of
moving where
Yeah.
you're.
right. All we're, yeah, the second part of what we're talking about now is simply, shall we enter into a second amended lease? Right? So a second amendment to the lease of February 20th to allow for the relocation of where the tower was proposed
Right.
to now where the training facility
2.5 story.
2.5 story
training
is
facility.
proposed. That's really what the town meeting is being asked to answer.
But the other
But you're
approval hadn't made it through zoning and stuff yet, right? It was a
They haven't
land
gone through zoning.
approval that we wanted to do.
It was just a
Too
site
close
plan.
to-
They can't go back to zoning until there's action of the town meeting.
But it was too close to the tree line, it sounds, so is that why we're moving it to get it
So,
somewhere?
It's the
different?
same address,
Sorry, I'm
mailing
late.
address,
That's
but
okay.
a
No,
different
that's
site.
okay.
Yes, but it is different location. That's your
Right.
first thing here,
But
right?
it's the same-
Not
Can I try to clean up here?
Not- no,
Just real
not
quick.
much.
Just real quick.
It is.
When
No,
on the original lease was
Here,
signed,
it's
they
here
leased the
Right.
entire
and
airport
it's
property,
being proposed there.
okay?
Yeah.
They're trying to clean it up where it's,
He said
instead of
it's
the
too close to
entire
the tree.
airport property, it's only 765 Andy Road,
Oh, man.
okay? The second part is to take the original approved building and move it to a different location.
But that's what
That's
we're
all we're
talking
looking
about.
to do.
On the,
Approval to move the building to a different location.
But it's a different location.
But also a
so-
different bill.
right. It's,
Should that not also be a separate change to the lease?
Well, that'll
well,
go.
but
to planning
that's,
zone.
that's why,
Because you want to change the location, that's one thing.
That's-
Now you're changing the scope.
that's
of
why
the-
we say as designated on map X, so as designated on map Y, because when the maps are looked at, it's clear that one was a tower and one is not a tower. So instead of, when you're being asked, again, this has been something that's been spoken about now at a number of meetings. And there, if anyone doesn't know or is confused as to what is being proposed by the fire department at this point, they haven't been paying attention to selectmen's meetings, zoning meetings, presentations at wetlands. I mean, this has been presented more times than, again, theoretically, at the town meeting, there doesn't need to be discussion. It could just adjourn to referendum, right? So but I suggested, just because this is the first time the town meeting is hearing this, right? Because the town meeting is a distinct legal entity or body, that there be a short presentation by the department of what is being proposed, so there's no confusion. Then an explanation as to what the question is with the maps, the two maps. We can blow them up till as big as we can make them. And then allow the public to get up, and anyone who wants to speak to it, again, it's not a debate, it's a discussion. Anyone can speak to whatever they want to say. So it's part of the public record, and then it adjourns to referendum, right? So this town meeting can't say, well, we didn't know what we were talking about because there was no presentation, there was no discussion, we didn't have a right to talk. So let's go through the process. So everyone ultimately who is voting at referendum, who is part of a town meeting and entitled to vote, right, will have that presentation with that ability to hear from people who are not opposed to it, right? Because people may be coming to the town meeting for the first time, hearing it for the first time, and they should be afforded the presentation, and they should be afforded reasons why people are opposed to it. Right, and then if we allow that process, then it adjourns, and then instead of having a separate room, as you would have to have on all right, it's just one room, and and it's one room, and it's all people who are entitled to vote at a town meeting can show up to vote on the day of the referendum. And by statute, you have to hold the referendum. I believe it's 7 to 14 days from the date of the adjournment of that town meeting. And what you're voting, it's not a referendum, it's a vote of the town meeting at referendum. So it's an adjourned special town meeting referendum, right? It's not like voting on a budget, it's a, instead of voting at the town meeting, you're voting at the adjourned special town meeting referendum. On that one item. So, I hope that clarifies. Or further,
I'm sorry.
but if you have anything else that you would like to express for purposes of the language of the lease, I'm happy to.
So, we proposed here, 11, it says Second Amendment to the February 2013 lease between the town, blah, blah, blah.
Well,
So that's fine.
and again, just for
Okay.
purposes of,
Yeah,
I'm living in a world, and again, it's the town attorney. I don't want to presume that we're gonna have a First Amendment, right? Because that presumes then the town meeting will vote. This could be the First Amendment, right? If the town meeting votes down the First Amendment. So for now, I'm envisioning the town meeting would vote in favor of amending to clarify the description of the lease. But if it doesn't, then this becomes a First Amendment.
okay.
All right, so I don't want to designate it as, so I'm just calling it an amendment. We'll slide in Second Amendment once we know whether or not the town meeting has authorized the First Amendment.
Okay.
All right, and that's just a matter of, I can't,
Well, I'm
just
gonna have to
timing.
put the call out prior to the
Right,
town
but
meeting, so.
I mean, as a matter of process, it'll become a Second Amendment if they authorize the First Amendment. But I don't want to assume that they've approved anything. So I'm just calling it an amendment.
Yeah, so I'm just hopping to item 12. You're,
Well, we have to vote on item 11 first.
okay, but it's
Yeah.
tied in together.
Okay.
It's just, for, on certain map dated October as revised.
Yes.
So nowhere is that word revised used for the 20,
Yeah,
for that map. the old
right,
map.
because when you look, and again, I'm trying to be true to what the facts are. When you look at the map that was prepared by, and again, we cut this down because I originally said as prepared by John Paul Garcia, and as we would in a deed description. And we cut it down, but if you look on the map itself, it says it was revised,
A whole bunch of times.
right here.
I-
It says revised, so I don't want, if I'm trying to be legally correct, it's not the map, it's the map as revised. And that's why it says as revised there.
And
Yeah,
she's
I
also gonna
certainly
redelineate what 765
Amity Road is.
I believe that's the first vote, right?
Well, the first vote is to designate the property 765, because right now technically by this lease,
It's almost.
they have a
It's everything.
whole.
It's the whole
It's
Magilla.
everything. Yeah, I get
So
that.
this right now is the
Just
first amendment
say
would basically
Part
you know,
of that.
make it, this is the map, this is the 765, this is what it is.
And just for the record, so that no one, I had to go with what I had. I'm reaching out to Mr. Garcia because his proposed site plan lists 755 Amity Road. Because again, the address to the entirety is 755. But what we're talking about is the area that's designated 765. Okay, so if anyone ever looks at the document that is included, it says 755. I'm asking Mr. Garcia to change that, so it says 765. But
There you go.
Can we just throw out the old lease and come up with something
Well, I
brand
think
new?
at some point we are going to have to review the thing in its entirety.
Make it very clear,
Yeah.
very specific, because recitals,
It-
all the lingo
yeah.
in it.
So it's really crazy.
It's a
I
mess.
agree with you 100%.
Yes, there's no question that the entire thing needs to have revision.
Just say
to review and
supersedes the
revision.
lease that was signed,
And
blah,
we can-
blah, and this is the map that is
Right,
accurate.
we
Instead of trying to-
definitely, right now, we're trying to address this issue just to get the amendments, you know,
right, instead of creating a document that was going to be brand new, that people were gonna comment on things that were not at issue.
Mm.
I said, let's get it revised and focus in on lease number one. First Amendment is the definition of premises. So
Right.
strike out the Schedule A language. You don't need that because we're leasing premises. We're not selling land. And so we're gonna change just paragraph 1.
Mhm.
All right, so Second Amendment is now, again, changing paragraph 1. Now we don't have to strike out the property description because that's already been presumably struck out, with the First Amendment. And we're gonna amend paragraph 1 to allow for the relocation of where that facility could be built. And so right now, that's pretty much all we're dealing with is a description of what the leased premises is and what is allowed to be done on the site. Whether or not they construct it, again, is up to the zoning commission and the wetlands commission. But what this would be doing is giving the owners authorization to proceed.
That's the owners of the lessee.
Well, the owners of the land or the landlord, the landlord's
the landlord,
authorization.
yeah.
Right,
the
yeah,
town.
Which is the town meeting.
right.
Yeah.
So I agree with you in part, but I said, if we come at this as a whole new 13, 15, 10 page, 9 page lease, then everyone's gonna be wordsmithing everything.
And we'll lose focus
And then you're gonna lose
on
focus on what's, and I didn't want to further confuse people voting. Right? I wanted to keep this narrow so that when people voted, we're not voting now on, warranties and representations and things like that, that might be in a standard lease. We're voting on the description of the leased premises and what they're allowed to do on the leased premises. So I thought to go to a brand new lease would really
Overwhelming.
confuse
It would be
the
overwhelming.
voter. We could do that in the future, and I don't disagree. I don't like the existing lease. But this is the simplest way to address the issue before us.
I don't know, particularly with the new map and with the new location and new building, all that to me sounds like it. It would warrant a new lease entirely, not trying to patch up the old one with
Well-
CONN instead of CT, that's.
Well, sorry, some of us abbreviate different than others, but they both mean kinetic.
That went over my head. I don't know if that one meant, but that's Yeah, we did.
Okay.
for number 11.
For number 11, which is the Second Amendment at this point.
Yes.
Any more comments or questions? All right, I will call a vote. All in favor of moving this to the town meeting?
Aye.
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 Okay.
Okay.
All right, number 12 is actually the question that we are proposing to bring to adjourn the town meeting to a town meeting referendum.
I will make
So,
that
I
motion.
want to make sure I have this correct, hold on. Number 12, to consider and act upon the resolution to adjourn item number 6 on the call of the special town meeting to the referendum. I designated a number for it because I know we have a few projects that we have to put ahead of it. So, in order to just have a number for this item, I gave it a number 6.
I just, yeah, how we can consider something that doesn't exist yet and say we're
Well, it
removing
will
it.
be on
how-
the, this will be on the call as item number 6.
Okay.
You
and
just moved it
just
to
gotta
the town
remove
meeting.
it.
Like, one of the
Now you
items,
wanna
one of the
move it to
first
referendum.
items is going to be, I know for sure, is going to be acceptance of the annual town meeting for 21-22.
Mhm.
Okay,
Okay,
then we have another item for the Historical Society for their roof. I believe, is it their roof?
Mhm.
That they were approved by Finance and the Board of Selectmen, and that needs to go to town meeting because it's $26,000.
okay,
So
but
that's another item.
number
think-
6,
right.
whatever you're,
You already moved the question to the call,
Right,
so now you want to remove the vote from the town meeting to referendum.
Okay, now, okay, so first, I'd like to make a motion to consider this act.
number 12,
Number 12.
Okay.
okay.
We have to consider it before we can talk about
Okay.
Yeah, you have to make a
All
motion,
right.
yes.
it. Okay,
You're gonna second so we can talk?
oh, sure.
okay. Now, so we are voting to move to referendum to change the location of proposed tower to 2.5-story training facility / burn building, or whatever you want to call it, to a different location on site.
So to be as clear as I can,
Yes.
what you are voting in accordance with section 7-7 of the Connecticut General Statutes as a Board of Selectmen to remove a question on the call of the town meeting
Mhm.
to referendum.
Right.
That question is whether or not the lease should be amended to allow for the location of a facility, okay, to be constructed on the leased premises from the area, relocated from the area that was shown on the 2004 map to the area that's now shown on the 2023 map.
And that's it.
That's as best as I can.
That's what we're voting on.
Right.
We're not voting to approve the project, disapprove the
Well, again,
project.
you're,
We're
as,
voting to
as,
allow the town to amend the lease to move the proposed training
proposed-
to a different location on property.
right, so it's from the
That's
spot
pretty-
shown on map 04 to
Yep.
the spot shown on map 23.
That's pretty simple. Okay.
How much does it cost for a referendum?
Well, when's the last time you had a
How much
referendum?
does
You
it
haven't had
cost
one
to the
since I
town?
was, except for Amity's.
Amity was.
Amity's different because
Amity.
they're regional, so it's a,
And Amity reimburses at the most
Yeah.
$2,000 to $3,000.
Yeah, a couple
at the
grand.
absolute most about, and I know two or three of the people I've asked already are volunteering, so there's no
Okay.
cost.
So a couple grand. Well, most of the cost is in the mailing.
right, because it's, yeah. And
the
what we're gonna do is we're gonna
balance, and then
incorporate,
We need an extra run of the popular maintenance crew will come through and they'll charge us another $300 at the most.
and I'm going to do the,
The other,
everything is going to be on the same call that gets mailed to the house, so we're not doing two. We're
Right.
going to do the town meeting call with. the
Oh, so don't want it to be a
referendum.
separate mailing.
No, it'll be one, you know, so. we
So
will-
it'll just be another sentence on the
the
call for
other,
town
the
meeting.
other thing is, I think there's a deadline, I think it might be September 7th, that the town clerks, like, if you were gonna push this out, your deadline, I think, is today or tomorrow, that the town clerk has to get a ballot up to the Secretary of State for the November election.
I can tell you in just a minute.
I think it's either the 6th or the 7th. I don't
Okay,
think.
to have a register.
Well, I mean, you-
So my point is that, you're kind of, you're in, this allows, there's no time crunch, except that it's gotta be 7 to 14 days
Right.
after the adjournment of town meeting.
And so basically,
No,
there's really no
that's-
additional cost.
Is it the 6th or the
Minor.
7th?
Minor
The 7th was the
additional
day that
cost.
we had to have the lottery by, we had our lottery already on Friday.
Oh, for the election.
Oh, for the election was last week, yeah.
Yeah.
That was Friday, yeah.
That's.
But I thought there was a deadline for the ballot.
Anyway, listen,
Yeah.
That's a straight referendum, not adjourning to the
No,
referendum.
that doesn't
You label
apply.
it
It
as
only
a-
applies for the November
If
election.
you wanted a training facility, you're locked into this manufacturer. That's why you're saying a 2.5-story versus a tower.
Right.
And moving it
it's-
to a different part of the property.
7th, right?
But what if you changed your mind and you wanted to put a different sort of training facility there and now that building's gonna be 1.5 stories or 3 stories.
That's a site plan issue.
That's a site, yeah, that's a site plan. This is.
But would it all have to go through all this
No,
Mickey Mouse
no,
again and
because-
change your
No,
descriptions and your
we would
map
have
and-
to allow, we're just allowing them to move the proposed facility to a different location.
We're,
What they propose at the planning and zoning could be,
No, I
the
understand
short
that, that's
answer is,
different.
no,
that's
from a
different.
leasehold perspective, you're granting the right for them to build a facility for the purposes of, I'm gonna call it training, at the new location, all right? The ultimate, again, you could allow them to build the Empire State Building there by lease. Doesn't mean they're gonna be able to do that because zoning is not gonna
No,
authorize
I
it,
understand, I
right?
understand.
So if they want to, you're allowing a 2.5, you're saying it's going from the tower to 2.5 story. If they're doing something that's less intensive,
No, but
I
my-
would say
My
they-
point is,
they don't need
why
a
not
lease
just
amendment.
say not greater than, and then if they change their plan somewhat, you don't have to go through all this stuff again. It's,
Well,
you don't, why?
Or just say training facility as approved by the local land use agencies, you know, because they're gonna be, they're gonna subject their regulations, which are gonna address lot coverage, which is gonna address, you know, intensification of use of the site, which is gonna, so all of that, again, is best left to the site plan process. All you're saying is, here's a rectangle. You can build within this
But- no,
rectangle.
but what I'm saying is 2.5 stories tall, we're not just saying it's a rectangle. That's my point is, by making it more detailed and more specific, it's more cumbersome, more complicated, and more difficult for.
Well, and that's why
for the
but
town.
that's why we haven't said that. What we said is, so that we enter into a second amendment to the lease between the town and the BVFA to permit the relocation of the structure shown on map 1 to the structure shown on map 2. And all they're saying, so then you look at the map and,
I wish you could see it.
yeah, no, I'm gonna do my best here. The map is what you would then go to for description of what's being allowed. And, Lord, yeah, I'm not gonna be able to do that.
proposed fire training building.
Yeah, so it doesn't
That's what
actually,
it says on the
it
map.
doesn't say 2.5 story.
It says right here.
We're just saying that because that's
I
what
know,
they,
you can, I can barely read it too, but right here it just says proposed fire training building.
Yeah.
The language that is on item 11 is not exact as the same language as what's on item 12. Does it need to be?
no, that's why they're approving the language now in this vote for the referendum.
Yeah, it would be
Right.
nice if we could have. you
So
know,
because,
this, and also.
there's,
Just, I'm pointing out just because there's a lot more
I
detail.
might be able to.
Yeah,
look
item
just a
11
little
language.
bit.
11,
Item 12 is a little more vague, and that's what the town is. Going.
Well, we can certainly have the amendments, obviously, will be available at the town meeting because people will be voting on those for approval. Or just however.
I mean, if I was the fire department, I'd probably try to make it more broad in scope. You know, if I was the leasing the property, so to speak, from the town, so
Well,
that if there
they-
was
they
any big
did.
revision to the facility or
Right.
this or that, wouldn't have to.
Okay, so what it
Take
says, what it
that.
says exactly, I think it says proposed fire training building. And then to the left of that, it says proposed 2,000-gallon holding tank for the wastewater estimated to be 300 gallons per event. So that's it. It doesn't say anything about 2.5 story or burning or not burning or ladders or anything. It just says proposed training building. That's something they're gonna have to talk to planning and zoning about. We're just allowing them to
right, so
make the
does this
proposal.
help? So here's the original. Right,
Mhm,
the
I see
original,
it, yep,
right, so you see it there?
yep.
And then, let's go to, we've gotta have the new one. That's a revised map.
It's just such a cumbersome process.
Well, that's not
I
the right.
really find that the detail and the naming and the revision and the maps,
This is why we're just,
seems like it could be way more straightforward.
Well, this is, I mean, this is to learn them to move the building. What they build is a different animal altogether.
Because we're dealing with a lease that's not well put together to start off with, so we're.
Right, I
trying to
thought
bring
that this
clarity.
was pretty straightforward, this
So
one.
we're trying to bring clarity.
Do we lease to them for $1 or $7 or something? Rent, the rent for the term of lease, well, yeah, $1.
Yeah.
Great.
They're your designated fire protection provider.
No,
So,
I get that,
right,
it's fine.
So
I'm happy.
it's the goodwill, their
It's
continued,
goodwill, I know.
well, it's their continued, based on that designation, you know, they're providing a municipal function, which then is avoiding the need to have a paid fire department.
Right,
Right,
we like that.
so.
Okay.
You made the motion. Anyway, I'm getting tired. Okay, all right. So is everybody good with item number 12?
I'm good.
Consider an act on the resolution. Item number 6, which you're going to be
We're
calling.
going to be
that.
designating it as
Number
number
6
6
is
on
going to
the
be
call,
called
yes.
that.
Yes.
On the call of the special town meeting to referendum.
Yes.
And because we already have the town meeting
And-
set and we're putting
and
this on
first,
the call,
right.
we have 7 to
7
14
to
days in
14
order
days
to
per
do the,
statute to have
to
the
bring
vote.
it to the referendum.
And you guys already said no to a ballot on November 7th.
Well, it can't be done. It's 7 to 14 days.
No, now we get it. So this is the only way to go at this point.
Yes.
So are we good? Everybody's okay?
Yeah, I'm not happy with the process, but if I bewildering if I say, no, it won't do me any good.
Well, I mean, I mean, I
That's
was
your
happy to
right.
answer your questions too, but well, yeah,
That's your right,
I mean, that's your
Yes.
right to say no.
Right.
That's your, you know, your right to vote as you see fit. So, any other comments or questions on this? Is anything else?
No,
Okay, all in favor of bringing this item 12, of approving this resolution and bringing it to the town meeting and then adjourning to referendum on October 4th, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Are you eyeing this?
I guess I'm
I-
agreeing because I don't, I
wasn't-
don't.
She's
Okay.
she's
Because
like,
if I
laughing,
said
but I wasn't
no,
sure if she
I
was
mean,
mad.
there's
Well, you
nothing else
can.
that can be
Well,
done
you
at this
can, I
point.
mean, you can
Right,
be on
well,
record as-
statutorily does
that's-
not.
that's,
It's,
you know,
it doesn't matter at this point.
If I, maybe I should just say no.
Say no.
I don't say no,
There you
Connie.
go.
Connie
okay,
just said no. I'm
you've
gonna
been
say no.
dictated to as to how to vote.
I don't understand why it's going to referendum anyway.
Correct.
Right.
It is
Okay.
going to referendum. The town will have the opportunity at the town meeting to hear the proposal again and to, you know, make comments. And then it will adjourn to the vote and the voters will speak. And remember, it is not on the approval of the project per se, it is on the approval of the use of the property, amending the lease. Okay, so just so everybody is clear on that, because they would have to go to planning and zoning and inland wetlands for any approval of the actual facility.
But their presentation at the town meeting is going to be the same presentation about the project.
I believe we will, well, it should be, because
it
if they're being
changes-
consistent, and we'll give them about 10 minutes. We'll give them about 10
But you
minutes
just said it's not
to,
gonna be, the vote's not on the project, it's on change of land use.
right, but so people understand what they want to propose to put there. I mean, that's what they've been giving everybody for the last, how many, 2 months, whatever many months. So people can ask questions again. This,
right, right, because ultimately, while you're voting on an interest in real estate, right, what the ultimate result is whether or not they're permitted to do what they want to do, which is what they're gonna present.
and that's the
So,
grant that they
right,
applied
so
for.
that the person voting on shall I amend this lease to allow for this doesn't mean this is gonna ultimately happen. That's up to wetlands and zoning. But as the landlord, owner of real estate, you get the right to say what can or cannot happen on your property. And that's what this town meeting / referendum will ultimately decide. So while going to Mr. Sterling saying, we're voting on whether or not this can be constructed. No, not really, but yes, kind of, right? So, I don't disagree with him, but the legalities of it make it different.
Okay, I
Right.
just need to make sure that the people understand there will be a forum where they can have their voice heard on the underlying issue, because in the past, they've been told they don't have the right to speak at some of these committee meetings. Yes.
I understand, no, I understand what you're
You
saying.
understand my point? Where are they
I
gonna?
understand what you're saying, because if they are not a public hearing, which this technically is not a public hearing either, this is a Board of Selectmen meeting, which we've allowed conversation to pursue in this meeting, which I find it's important that people can have their voice heard. But we did not have to let everybody ask questions and talk tonight. This is not a hearing.
Right.
This is a meeting of the Board of Selectmen.
And this is why we voted to bring it to a town meeting so everyone can participate.
Wait,
And
that's-
then everyone
Yep.
can vote after the talk.
But the site plan will be a public hearing.
the what?
Yeah, if they get to the planning and zoning, then there will be another
The zoning
opportunity
commission will,
through planning and
let-
zoning for a public
they-
hearing.
they
Right,
don't
I
have-
understand that. It's not, it's
Okay.
So,
you don't have to close meetings. I mean, you don't have to close them.
Hold on a second, Catherine's talking, Connie, hold on, go
I'm
ahead.
sorry, Connie, sorry, because people are gonna call me and ask me questions, like hit me on Facebook, and stuff like that. So we had this town meeting that we discussed this fire station situation. Will people have the opportunity to have public comment?
It's town meeting.
Yeah, it's a town meeting, yes.
Okay, they're not-
Absolutely.
Everyone has the right to stand up and have their voice be.
I know.
Right, everyone has the right to stand up and speak. Right.
But that's always for town
Okay.
meeting.
I just wanted to
There's
clear
not-
that
it's-
up.
it's
I
not a
wanted
Town
to
meeting is
clear
the
that up.
it's not a
opportunity
debate.
to speak.
It's not a debate.
We can make a decision.
Right.
It's
not a debate.
It's
Remember, it is not a debate that night, it is public comment. People can express to, for, against, whatever, but it's not gonna be a back and forth argument. It's gonna be, they're gonna make their presentation for the final time, just to tell people, this is,
Well,
you
What
know.
about that? As somebody who gets shouted down regularly at public meetings, we should not allow that. The moderator shouldn't allow people to be shouted down, okay?
Okay.
That happens.
Okay,
Is that a 3-minute also?
we'll do a 3-minute, because I'm sure there's gonna be a lot of people who wanna make comments, so unless we wanna be there until the sun comes up, we will limit public speaking to at least 3 minutes a person. And we will make sure that the moderator, we will have a timer like we did tonight. And I have to say, the two of you came in right under the wire. You were good. You knew.
Sorry.
It's not,
Well, Connie, that's
Yes,
something-
Con-
it's not this meeting I'm talking about, the town meeting. It's the next meetings where the issues will be raised. It may be planning and zoning, it may be inland wetlands. If those are not open at some point for folks to have a conversation and discuss.
someone would have to talk to the chairs of those
Right.
commissions.
There's-
I don't have control over
Right,
that.
there's-
That would be up to the chairs of both of those boards and
There's no
commissions.
requirement that the site plan be referred for public hearing. So that would mean it's at least a public meeting. At a public meeting, it's up to the discretion of the chair, whether or not the public has the right to speak. But they can send it out for public hearing. And if it's before the Wetlands Commission, there's a process of requiring a public hearing that a petition can be filed
What
with
I
the commission.
suspect Connie's referring to is the way that it was sent to P and Z this last time, there was no opportunity for public comment.
That was because it was an
of the time-
8-24.
Because of the time frame, there was no opportunity.
No.
They didn't have time they had to vote on it, yes, they did.
No.
They had to vote on it, they didn't have time to have a public hearing.
But
about it.
because by
You know?
statute, an 8-24 is not a public hearing.
I know,
And-
but
They should have
keep
had a public
saying
hearing.
that.
But by statute, we should do what the law requires us to do.
But it can be waived, can it not?
Beg your pardon?
What can be waived, Connie?
A meeting be public?
All meetings are public.
They're public, but that doesn't mean it's a hearing where everyone can comment. This is a public meeting, but not necessarily that everybody can,
Right.
like we've allowed conversation to happen tonight on all of the different items, which is fine,
Right.
because we need input and feedback, and
Good.
it's good to hear.
Yes.
But I didn't necessarily have to do that. I could have said to everybody, okay, you had your 3 minutes of public comment, you're
Yes.
done.
You're right.
So we didn't do that. We afforded everybody an opportunity to comment and participate, but we didn't have to do that. This was not a public hearing. This was a Board of Selectmen, so there's a difference.
You
But
have, You did, and
Go
I
ahead.
appreciate that. Why
I'm
should
sorry, I
that,
didn't-
I appreciate that. You did do that. So
Yeah,
my
thank you.
always has been in Bethany, why isn't that the default?
Well, we start with what the law requires.
I know it,
And well, look, I'm trying to give you an explanation. We start with what the law requires, and then we look at what our regulations require. All right, and we try to be consistent on all matters. Right now, on an 8-24, the issue was narrow, was whether or not the proposal complied or conformed with the POCD. And what was stated there was that there was going to be an opportunity before the Board of Selectmen, which was tonight, and then the town meeting for all of the issues that the public wanted to address to be addressed, and to address it at a forum that is supposed to be limited to a specific issue, to go beyond that issue, is not good practice for purposes of what process requires. All right, that 8-24, it was a referral for the zoning commission to issue a report. It was based on them doing that at a public meeting, not a public hearing. And it was after consultation with the commission, with the town planner, and quite frankly, I also reached out to the new authors of the Dennis Karen's land use book, just to get some input, because I understood this to be a matter of public concern. But the concern that was raised is that you don't want to create precedent. Why are you doing it on this 8-24 and not another 8-24? This was a matter of concern to a certain segment of the town, not, but another 8-24 is going to be a different segment of the town. And then, now you're converting the process into something that it's not legally. So the recommendation was that we stick to what the legal process is throughout. And when it gets to wetlands, there's a process. If it's not set for public hearing, then it could be petitioned for public hearing. And if it's before zoning, a site plan does not require a public hearing, but they can schedule it for public hearing. So that is something that we could address at that point. But I appreciate I've said it's my role and my goal is to ensure that the process is followed, and that all members of every part of the stakeholder has their rights protected and preserved. And that's what I've tried to do as best as I can.
okay, so now we know that we could petition. I know a lot about this stuff, but
That's under your regulations. It's right in there.
everybody on this call, they're citizens, they're not lawyers and litigators and legislators, but there are people on this call who now hear that if they don't like that they're not allowed to speak, they can petition. I think it's important that we know that, because I think the history of the last couple of years has been one of non-transparency, and that's a fact.
Well, in fairness to the zoning commission and wetland commission, who are not here, I have seen with the zoning commission an abundance of
issue or a specific transaction. That happened to have been one, and we don't need to go through this, but I think we need to be more attuned to making sure that these are issues we're talking about have been, as Paula said, very hot. And and they're issues that have consumed a lot of public attention and divisive attention in the community. These are not issues that should be closed. That's my point. So we have to figure out how to make them, how to make these and others that are going to come up in the future much more transparent. That should be the goal. That's my only point. So you guys on this call, Brad and Carol, etc., we need to petition when we need to petition. That's all.
All right, thank you, Connie, for your feedback. Okay.
Thank you, Paula.
Any other comment? Can I hear somebody?
Yeah, Connie,
Connie
thanked you.
Oh, thanks, Connie.
We're at number 13.
We should be on number 12, correct?
No, 12 we already voted on.
Oh, we're on the.
You gotta vote?
13.
Did you?
We voted, yeah.
voted,
We all, we
and
voted.
you changed
2 to
your
1,
vote or
2 to
no?
1, yes. No, she voted no, no.
No.
That's fine.
She voted no, okay.
That's fine.
All right.
13.
13 is other items to come. Other items to come before the board. I think we filled our quota for tonight.
I'm good.
Well, I was gonna ask about the, well, we'll talk about it later, right?
You
As
can-
far as the
now's the time.
vacancy at.
Well,
town hall,
our-
okay,
our-
that there is
yeah.
one.
There will be one, yeah.
Okay, okay,
Yeah,
just to know about that.
hasn't
Because
left at this
it
point, but there will
could
be one.
impact that particular office,
Mhm.
right? In a lot of ways.
So, any other items? Do I hear a motion to adjourn?
No.
Liz, I'm gonna assume it's gonna be a second.
I have a question for Claire, we're gonna save it
We're
for
gonna,
after. while you're
yes, we are gonna adjourn. We've all voted unanimously to adjourn. So I'm gonna stop the recording, and I do thank everyone who attended tonight.